Haumitakiapi, welcome everyone. Today's date is the 6th of April 2020, and I would like to talk about the situation that's happening in the world at this time. But before I begin that, I want to talk about certain things in the past that happened that I've been thinking about in the past few days. A lot of people think that what's happening in this world is because humans are violating the earth, and the earth is telling us, hey, you guys better get your act in gear. And this is like a warning. But I think that's not the complete picture. I think it's part of the picture, but I don't think it's the only piece. I think there's several pieces, and it would be good to look at what could these other pieces be. And I started to think about, okay, look at certain events that happened in history. There is a connection between some of these events. Like, for example, in the 1700s, when and there was no America, but there was these 13 British colonies, and they were under the jurisdiction of the King of England, and they came to make money. Then they were at first they tried to grow the crops that they normally grow in Europe, but they didn't take, and so they had difficulty. And there were some interactions with the local Indian people. Some of it was good, but a lot of it was bad. And lots of land was taken by force, by warfare, chemical warfare, by giving smallpox infected blankets to Indians during a severe winter, and things like that. Yeah, but there were some good things too. It wasn't all bad. It was a lot bad, but it was not entirely bad. And one of the good things that happened was that some Indians taught these European colonists how to grow and tend the crops that grow naturally in that part of America, or that part of North America, the continent, I can say. And because of that, now these products are sent all over the world. Lots of vegetables that you eat come from Indian people. And byproducts too, yeah, like popcorn. Popcorn. If it weren't for the Indians, there would be no popcorn. So when you are sitting in a theater, or I shouldn't say that. We're not allowed to go to theaters at this time. When you're sitting at home and you're making your popcorn, whether it's the old-fashioned way or the microwave way, think of that. That it's because of Indians that you get to enjoy your popcorn. Okay? Better not forget that. I'm not joking. I'm very serious. It's true. Yeah? Okay, so that's when the economy started growing in the 13 colonies, when Indians helped these white Europeans to grow the crops that are suited for this climate. And the economy started growing, they started making money. The King of England saw that and said, hey, I want that money. So he raised their taxes, and it got to the point where the European colonist farmers were losing money. And so they decided, hey, we're not going to take this anymore. But rather than saying it directly to the king, they dress up as Indians and then burn burn the ships that are taking these products back to England. And a lot of it was tea. So this happened near Boston, so they called it the Boston Tea Party. But the thing is, they couldn't even do it as their own identity. They had to pretend to be somebody else to do this. Then they declared independence from England, and the rest is history. Now, today we have the United States. Okay. Now, let's jump to the 1800s when America is starting to establish itself westwardly, and through this process was a lot of confrontation and difficulties with Indian peoples. And what the American military did was they would dress up as Indians and go kill all the farmers and their families, and they would rape the women and even the children. And then they would have a photographer take the photos of the aftermath and say, this is what the Indians did. They dressed up as Indians just in case somebody survived, in case somebody ran away. So this is why they did that. So the reporters of the day then embellish the stories, and their goal is to create a sentiment in America to call for the extermination of all Indian people. It's incredible. And we're still feeling that today. Even the lady who was fighting for women's rights, Susan B. Anthony, she was fighting also for America to free the slaves, but yet this same woman was also calling for the president to issue the call to exterminate all Indian people. This is how much they hated Indian people. So they got the press to send out all this fake news to create a sentiment for America to hate all Indian people. And like I said, we're still feeling that today. American sports teams think it's okay to, have their mascots be these cartoonish, ridiculous caricatures of Native American faces or items or whatever. And if you try to confront them on it, they'll say, "Oh, we're honoring them." And it's ridiculous. But their goal was successful. Yeah, they created the sentiment in America to hate all Indians. At this time, I'm living in Germany, and when I meet white Americans here who are tourists or maybe they even live here, I am really skeptical of them. And sometimes my German friends will say, "Why are you acting that way towards them? They seem to be friendly." And then I tell them this story. And then they understand, or they have an idea of why I'm skeptical, because most white people in America couldn't care less about Indian people. They don't give a shit. They make fun of us. I mean, they're not all this way, but most of them are. It's just a fact. That to create this sentiment to hate all Indian peoples back in the 1800s was very successful, and it's still happening today. Yeah? But you see the pattern here. There's a pattern forming. Yeah, that America pretends to be the enemy, then attacks its own people to create a certain sentiment, to brainwash the mass so that the people will think a certain way. That's brainwashing. Plain and simple. Okay? Now let's fast forward to September 11, 2001. And I don't think I have to give you the information on that. We all know what happened. But I saw several documentaries with experts in forensics that were finding contradictory evidence among the ground zero area and the aftermath. They were saying that there's something on these steel beams that shouldn't be there. And they were wondering, what is that? And they tested it and they realized it comes from explosive materials. And they were starting to check it out, and then they were also doing other tests, which they realized that an airplane cannot bring down that building, even using the fuel as a bomb. It doesn't create a high enough temperature for the beams that hold these buildings, that support these buildings, to melt, thus causing the buildings to fall. There's no way a plane can do that. The biggest jet full of fuel cannot do that. Something has to be added. So that was the big question, that there was something added, and that most likely this was placed in the buildings before the crashes occurred, which means there's something missing in the story. And now there's information coming out that Mossad, which is the CIA of Israel, they discovered information in a phone call concerning a plot that Al Qaeda was going to crash planes into various locations in America. So they give this information to the CIA in America, and then they decide, okay, let's let it happen, but let's make it worse. Let's make it worse than it really will be. So they know the time when this event is going to occur, so that gives them a time frame of how fast they need to get these explosive devices into these buildings and where to put them strategically so that they will go off shortly after the planes crash or when the planes crash. And this will make it look like it was the planes that brought this down and that it was Al Qaeda who did this, all of this. So again, they're pretending to be the enemy against its own people. And they do it in the morning, so it won't be so much. Still, what, 3,000 to 4,000 people still died in both buildings? And there was a third building that fell too, another tower. It wasn't as big as those really tall ones, but that one fell a little bit later, and now there's film footage of people saying, okay, we need to get out of here because this building is going to fall. They already knew it. Do you see what I mean? We don't have the full story, and there are pieces starting to surface that are painting what really happened. So it was not necessarily Al Qaeda who brought those buildings down. Do you see what I'm saying? So why would they do that? Perhaps to create sentiment against the Muslim people worldwide. This would be a really good way to do it, because Muslims are an enemy of Israel and vice versa. Also to America. And also America has an interest in the oil of where these Muslim countries are located. So this September 11th event is Israel and America scratching each other's back, with the result of creating a sentiment worldwide to hate all Muslim people. It's the same thing that happened to Indians in the 1800s. You see the pattern forming. Okay? Now let's go back a little bit to around the 1980s or so. And there were some people doing some population studies, and they noticed that during a certain time period, there was a lot of people that were dying of several types of cancer, and they were all located in towns and cities that were near rivers, beginning in Idaho and following these rivers, and eventually these rivers meeting to where the Mississippi River is, and then out towards the Gulf of Mexico. Okay, but from these rivers in Idaho to where they all connecting to each other, so they have different names, and then ending up in the Missouri River, then the Missouri River going into the Mississippi River. So it's from Idaho to where the Missouri River connects to the Mississippi. In this area, a lot of people were dying from cancer, and they were wondering why. This is an irregular pattern. It's the rate of these deaths was very irregular, and it was really, really high. So they started to check things out, and it turned out that, oh, there's something in the water. So they got their evidence, and they wanted to go before Congress, and then American military admitted that they were conducting chemical tests. They were putting something in the water in the 1950s and the 1960s in areas where the populations were low so that nobody would notice. They were conducting chemical weapons research, and this was probably going to be used against Russia, Moscow. You see something starting to form here. That they were testing something among the people to have it achieve a certain result. And this is all done in secrecy. It's very secretive. Who's behind this? I don't know. But there is something there. Yeah, something is happening. And these are like puzzle pieces. And I think it's all pointing to something. It's leading to something. Then we have this, what is this called again? I did a really big show on this in the past, where the Navy and a certain university and other research things, they have this thing happening in Alaska. It's called HAARP, High Frequency Active Oral Research Program. And what they're doing is they're sending certain kind of waves into the atmosphere. Their goal was to create favorable weather conditions so that things like droughts could not or would not form or happen. But the thing is that they were also sending these waves into the earth too. And there were other scientists that were saying, wait a minute, what's going on here? And so they were creating a miniature version of this in a vacuum area. And what they came up with was an incredible storm. It's a little storm, yeah, in this vacuum area, and it caused a lot of problems, which led them to believe they're developing a weapon. They're using the weather. They're affecting the weather. Because if you could cause certain places to not have much crops, then those people in that country would come to you and you get rich off of that. So it's for money. Money's behind it, but it could also be, this is a weapon. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see these patterns, these puzzle pieces coming together? This is really troubling. And then there's the people who talk about these chemtrails that are being left behind by planes and so forth. And that I don't really get into so much because sometimes I'm busy. I don't have time to look into everything. But these things really got my attention, and they always still do get my attention. And so I think, what's going on? There's something happening right in front of us, and we're not even paying attention to it because we're too busy watching our favorite sitcom or our favorite sports team or our favorite movie, or we're buying things, or we're taking drugs, or no matter what it is, it's all a drug. It's to keep us away from reality. It's to keep us away from nature, from each other. And then when something starts, we're kind of like, oh, it's over there, and that it's in that country, as long as it stays over there, you know. And then lo and behold, this COVID-19 is spreading worldwide. It's affecting every place except Antarctica. I have a hard time saying that country. Antarctica. The Antarctic. It's not affecting that area. So they say. Maybe that's where it started. they they had it all there and sent it out, so it's not in Antarctica anymore, and instead of it's coming everywhere else. You never know. But do you see what I mean? And now here it is, and mostly everybody's staying home, and now we're talking to each other. And for some people, that's not good because they depended on this addictive world to kind of put a mask up so that they can just see each other so much and stand each other. But now they have to actually communicate, and they find out maybe they don't like each other, maybe they don't love each other. Domestic violence increases. Those who do love each other, probably be a big baby boom in December. Yeah, I don't know. Bachakel. That's for those of you who are following my Lakota language lessons on YouTube from lesson 13. Another thing that's been happening is that there are people who starting to realize that maybe they've had this virus earlier because of the symptoms. I myself know several people personally. I've seen it where they've had problems breathing. And I'm talking about last summer. They had these symptoms. These were younger people, and for several days they had it. They couldn't breathe, they were having problems, and crying. One girl was crying, and it was horrible. Didn't know what to do. And after a few days, they got better. And we thought it was allergies, but maybe it wasn't. Because in some cases, it wasn't just that person, but the person they were with. They had it at the same time. And I know other people. And I know people in other countries. And now they're saying the same thing too, that now they're wondering if they had this. Like last fall, before this coronavirus made the news, that there are people who are starting to wonder now that maybe they had this earlier. Which leads to the next thought that maybe it did not start in China. Myself, I believe it started in several places at the same time, or close to the same time. In Lakota Star Knowledge, it talks about when humans come on the earth. At that time, there's only one continent. And they came in 5 groups, not at the same time, but kind of close to each other. And slowly they merge and form all the cultures and so forth before the continents break apart into what we see today. So I think that what happened here with this virus is that I think it might not have started in China. But because China has the world's biggest population and certain living conditions are there, that caused it to grow faster. So it looks like it started there. I think personal hygiene is also a big part of this too, because a lot of these places where it's growing fast, those countries, their personal hygiene is not that good. You look at Italy, China, India, parts of America, parts of England, Spain, France. Their hygiene is not that great. I know that. I've been to these places. Okay, so I can attest to that. And like I said, I'm hearing stories of people around the world who now they're starting to wonder if they had this virus last year. Because their doctors didn't know what it was. Some thought maybe they're getting the flu, but then it stopped really quick. And it didn't follow the flu. It started like it, but it didn't follow through. So it makes you wonder. So I think it didn't really start in China. I think it just grew faster there because of their living conditions. And they're also the world's strongest economy. So now add all these puzzle pieces together. Maybe it's possible that this virus was a product of something that was started by somebody and then put out there. So it has several stages of development. So it looks like it developed naturally, but really it didn't. Now, I might be sounding conspiracy here, but I'm thinking out of the box. And as long as you're thinking out of the box, you're challenging yourself. And your mind is doing mental gymnastics, going, woo-hoo. I'm not good in gymnastics, but my mind is. But you see what I mean? It just think it. I'm not asking you to believe one word that I'm saying, but just think about what could be possible here. Yeah? What could be possible of how this happened? But more importantly, it's what do we do with it now? It is here. And what do we do with it now? These are my thoughts. That something is happening bigger than we think. And the best way to handle this is to pay attention to now. Be in the present moment. Yeah? Enjoy what you have right now. Be thankful for what you have. Even if it's a little, that's okay. If it's nothing, hang in there. Yeah? Call for help. For those of us, we need to reach out to those in whatever way we can without breaking the law to get help to people. And what's happening a lot on the internet, people are posting videos and they have social events happening where people are in all their houses and they're singing and playing instruments or whatever, and really funny videos are coming out too. And this is medicine. Yeah, we're talking to each other. That's what we have to do. But we have to talk to ourselves too. That means take care of ourselves. Exercise. I know sometimes we can't go out. Well, we can still find ways to exercise in our house. If you're listening to me now, that means you have the internet. Look on some home exercises on YouTube. There's a lot of good things out there. Yeah? There's lots of good things out there. So we have to talk to ourselves. We have to communicate within ourselves so our physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional selves are bonding, that they strengthen each other. We nurture this with our intention. Yeah, when we say, okay, I want to do this, I will do this, I am doing this. We're nurturing that by the way we think. Reality begins within. I always say that. It's the first Lakota Star Knowledge concept. So we need to do that. Yeah? Take care of ourselves. We love ourselves. And then we do this with the people around us in our homes. Then we can get on our smartphones and make videos and encourage one another, help one another, love one another, yeah, and talk to each other. But we begin within ourselves. The love begins within ourselves. We have to love ourselves before we can really, really love others. And love doesn't mean just, everything is wonderful, happy. It also means being able to solve difficulties because you learn from that. And when you do that, you appreciate the good things. And then you understand, this is love. Love includes everything. It's not just the good times. It's learning from the difficult times too. Yeah? So this is what we can do. This is where we have power, and believe it or not, the power is really great when we do it this way. Yeah? So think about that. First, go within yourself and nurture yourself. Sing songs. If you don't know what songs to sing, I can give you some suggestions. I've done some songs on YouTube. Lakota prayer song, Lakota song of thanksgiving, Lakota song of compassion. You can find these on my YouTube channel. And you can start with those if you want to, or whatever you like. You know, your favorite song that makes you feel good. It's a healthy song. Maybe you want to listen to Lionel Richie's Sweet Love. It's not really a romantic song. It is about what I'm talking about. Loving yourself so you can love others and appreciate it. And then do things with whatever you have. Talk to each other. Tell each other stories. If you have your smartphone, and if you're listening to this, that means you do, or you have the internet at least, make a video. Put it out there. Share it. There's a social distance powwow that's happening all the time now, where there's Indian dancers dancing, there's singers singing, and they're sharing it on this network, and everybody is connecting. And it's not just for Indians, it's for everybody because we're all connected to one another. We are all connected with our sacred centers, where our hearts, when I say heart, I mean emotions, our mind, our soul, and our body, this part where it connects within each one of us. In that point, this is a sacred area. You have several very sacred creation pieces there. Each one of us has it. And it's not just humans, it's animals, it's plants, it's rocks. Everything has this. This is what connects us all to each other. That's why in Lakota we say mitakuye oyasin. Yeah? It's everything. Not just Indians, it's everything. So that's why I say go within yourself first to strengthen that, nurture that. By doing things, singing. When you sing, your soul is coming alive and you are like extra somehow. Yeah? You're connecting to the spiritual, you're creating a very special field of energy, and when it's done in a healthy way, it's incredibly healing. So we can, sing to yourself, sing for others, sing with others. Whatever song. It don't have to be Indian. It don't have to be from a church or anything. You are the church. Go to it. Do you see what I'm saying? For those of you who are Christian, the gospel tells you your body is a temple. You don't need that out there. I'm not judging any religions. What's most important is the one that you are. In Lakota, you are sacred. You are a blessing. And what I said to nurture yourself, You do this because reality begins there. And this is also where we connect to each other. And we have a very special connection to the earth in this same area too. When we nurture that, we're really opening our lines of communication to each other, and we can nurture each other. This is why in Lakota we say, Mitakoyapi tekichi hilapo. Everyone, love one another. And this is what that means. Now I would like to end my little discussion here today with some information from the Lakota Star Knowledge. There are stories of a special creation that's living in the air where Shkan is. Look out your window. If it's a clear sky and you see the blue, that is Shkan. It's a very sacred being. It's the leader of one of the Wakantanka groups. Wakantanka is not God, it's an organization of several beings in there, and he's the leader of this. There are these creatures that live there in this blue, and they protect the earth, they care for the earth and everything inside the atmosphere and inside the earth. So when radiation is coming from wherever, the sun or wherever, these creatures, they stop it. If there is a virus, should there be a virus that is airborne, these creatures can stop it too. Think of them in your mind. Pray to them. Ask them for help because they love you. They do what they do because they love you. This is the way it is. To read more about Lakota Star Knowledge spirituality, you can read my book called Wichocha Otechike. You can see the book cover on the right side of this screen. This book contains the information to what I talk about on my Lakota spirituality videos. To purchase this book, please click below where it says Show More. Clicking on that link will open up the description below, and there you will see a link called To Purchase My Books. As you will see, it's an eBay link. Click on that eBay link, and there you will see the information to get this book. Lila Pila Mayelo. Thank you very much.